Here we go. So welcome to the team. I think there's going to be about 12 of us, and some people won't actually make many of these calls because they're in time zones that are very not friendly to having North America, South America, Europe, Hawaii, and Australia, and New Zealand, and Asia, and India. So what we're going to do is keep this as inclusive as we can, and we'll hopefully come up with this little group of people today with a plan of things that we want to do. We'll post everything out on Slack and then let people raise their hands, hopefully, for little tasks that we're going to come up with on things that are related to this. So people can kind of work offline, come up with a couple of the things we need, maybe like researching other corporate events for trainers. And then we can kind of come together and do it a little bit in person and a little bit, well, not in person, on Zoom, and a little bit offline. Okay, so that's kind of the framework here. And I do have an agenda actually, but before we start, let's just do a little bit of an introduction. So your name, what class you're in, and what made you want to sign up for this. And then the fourth thing would be maybe any specific skill sets you have. And I'll pop that all in the chat, but any specific skill sets you might have that would be helpful to this group. Okay, so let's do this. Will be name, year, then okay, like why did you volunteer? And lastly, what background can you leverage to help us? Okay, and the framework for that then is also going to be a little tighter here, and I'm going to now start with the disclaimer. I think for all of us want to have an annual meeting, or we wouldn't have raised our hand. So we are in the in-group. In my conversation with Lindsay, and I hope all of you have watched that video, we have to prove to Dr. Joe, let's call Lindsay our sponsor. She would like to have it. She is all in, but we have to prove to Dr. Joe that this is a worthwhile use of his resources, some parts of his company resources, and that this is something he would endorse and want us to move forward with. So we have a client called Dr. Joe, and we have a sponsor called Lindsay. And so what we are doing is we are creating a proposal just like we do for our clients when we want to get them to sign up for NCS or whatever we do. And so this is not going to last a long time, this proposal task force. Let's just get in, get what we need to, create something and propose it. Okay. And then Lindsay is going to then review it. She will be talking back to us then with feedback. And then we'll do another draft. And then we're going to get this to Dr. Joe to look at. Lindsay's perspective from me, in my conversation with her, and we just had Anne-Marie join. And just so everyone knows, all the questions I asked Lindsay came from Anne-Marie. And I made sure I gave her credit on that video because she was the brilliant one, but she was on vacation when Lindsay could put me in her calendar. So Lindsay feels like when Dr. Joe gets these proposals, he very often will take it and maybe go a very different direction with it than what we had even proposed. So it's, Mary, I would love you to maybe weigh in on that when you get to your turn. I'll do you first. But it's one of those things where it probably isn't something we want to like make this 100%. Let's get it to a really good spot and then let it like live into the world. Okay. So let me just start with the intros then. I'm Lori Ives Godwin. I graduated last year. I certified 3 months after I was in Cancun, and I started teaching pretty quickly after that. I actually just taught this past weekend. And I'm doing it on a pretty good clip. I love this work. I was a volunteer for 2 years before I became a consultant. So I'm all in. And prior to this, I ran large events for my own company as an entrepreneur, holding holistic, alternative, and integrative events. And prior to that, I was a project manager for 15 years for corporate America. And I did change management, and I did all of the things when you install really large scale projects. So I'm a consultant by background, an entrepreneur by choice, and this hits my sweet spot. So Mary, if I could call on you and have you do a bit of an introduction.
That sounds great. And I know that so many people on the team that are getting picked these days are, really people who fit in well with this work. So I went through the training in 2016. So that was a very, very long time ago. And we had completely different leadership at that time. So I can tell all of you who now, I mean, you've known Lindsay, she's been here, but I can just tell you that she has been an amazing leader because things have really taken off and everything has been so much different since she took over. So just to kind of do a history for myself, my background is in healthcare. I worked at a hospital for 31 years and I retired in 2020 because I just wanted to do this work. I just decided to retire a little bit earlier so that I could do this work, full time. But even with having been trained back in 2016, there was absolutely no direction. I don't know how else to say it. In the beginning, the people who were doing it weren't even sure which way it was going. Dr. Joe was somewhat interested in it, but there just weren't that many people. It didn't have a lot of momentum. And really, it was like several years where just nothing happened at all. I don't even know if the group kind of kept meeting, but when Lindsay came on board, she started reaching out to everybody again. And so I got back on with her and was kind of finishing up caregiving for my mother who was ill, and then ended up just taking a while to get back into it. So as far as my experience with the group, I guess, what Lori was hoping, maybe give a little bit of history, but I could just go from that vantage point. I always know that with Dr. Joe, it's always been just like even at his events, they don't really have a timetable. You never know which direction he's going to take it and you just go with it. But everything he ever does is really amazing. When he started getting us all together for the new book and doing those drills, it was really changing the way that we taught the work and doing the scripts. And so all of that has been new. So I feel like even though we had been doing stuff for a while, that really changed it for us. I think it just made everything a lot more clear about the teaching and the new book and all of that that's going on. So I kind of accidentally signed up for this group. I just went in to see what was happening because I was curious. I'm like, I wonder what they're doing with this annual program and what might be going on. Do I need to put something on my calendar? And then I started to leave, but somehow Lori saw that I was in there and then asked me back because I wasn't sure what I could contribute or not contribute. But I do have a little bit of history. I do know the folks, like the people in my class are the ones that talk a lot at your group, the amazing people, Sonia and Maria and Lisa May and Kim Boda. So those people are in my class and I feel like I could reach out to them and ask them, what it is they want to see in this, kind of like Anna Marie was saying, do a kind of a survey and see what it is that people want. And as far as anything else, I've done some small events, like at the hospital, I used to run some events. And I did a lot of volunteer work for the American Cancer Society and helped with a lot of events. I still volunteer on a board, and we have a fundraising event coming up in November. So I kind of get organized and do those types of things. And I like to try to find things that make it kind of fun. I like to be creative in that way. So
cool. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Thank you for joining, Ish. Let's go ahead, Gina. I'm just going to call people that way we're not all crazy. So Gina, if you don't mind.
Sure, thank you. I am so grateful to be here. I'm a trainee for NCS, so class of 2023, along with Simone and Shimrit and Sharon. And my answer to this invitation, why did I volunteer? Because I have a lot of corporate experience. I've worked in corporate leadership, sort of was in corporate by default because I was in a situation as a single mom, but my background is I have my master's in spiritual psychology, consciousness, health and healing. I've been meditating consistently since 1981 and been aware of Dr. Joe since 2000, probably 4. and then read You Are the Placebo in 2015. And I knew that the languaging and the way that he was bringing it in was gonna, I mean, it just changed my life in terms of meditation. And so I just say all that because I have this view, and I was in corporate, the box, for 20 years, working leadership. And so I helped CEOs change culture. I brought in trainings and events and practices constantly. I was the sort of that little irritant in corporate who had an insight into how change happens, and that if we could get it going on at the individual level, we could make something happen. So I've just had so much fun in that environment, helping develop programs and trainings and conferences over 20 years. And it was inside of a sales organization. And so, you know, those are kind of the front line and the face of the organization, bringing the organization's message to the world. So I don't really know other than that. I mean, hopefully you said yes to my yes, because you heard something in there. So given all that, yeah, I'm just here to serve and jump in and pitch in however I can be of value. And yeah, I think I kind of also covered my skill set in there. And yeah, so there it is. That's me.
Anne Marie, do you want to hop on?
Sure. Sorry, I was late, everybody. I was running from a very fun back-to-back day of meetings. So I'm Anne Marie Curley. I have a management consulting company, and I implement our program teams implement large software projects for clients and lead their transformations through technology. And I also help rewire client teams through leadership and management training. I've been in business for about 12 years. I started reading Dr. Joe's books probably around 2017, 2018, went to my first retreat in Cancun in December 21, saw the NCS table, come back, Googled it, and felt very compelled to apply. Didn't really know where it would go. It was very much out of left field. My background is computer science, very much a ones and zeros type girl. But I said, okay, I'm just going to go with this anyway. Applied, went on the 2022 training, got certified by, I think, September-ish, trained my first client of 25 people in November. And I've trained about 3 or 4 client teams since then. And so the way I see this work, it really lends in quite nicely with the other work I do with clients. So one arm of my business is all leading implementations and helping lead transformations. And the other arm of my business is helping empower and equip leaders and teams to actually run better and to run the organization better, which is a blend of people and process and technology. And so I use the Change Your Mind program in a way as a door opener. So once you have, once you train people on that program, they start to see possibilities and they start to take on individual accountability. And then once you've done that, then you can layer on other leadership training and management training on top of that. So that's what I'm doing. I don't get to train often enough because I'm super busy on the implementation side, but I keep pushing it forward. And I'm excited to be part of this group and really interested in where we take this. Because I think there's so much opportunity. You know, interesting, Gina, you talked about transformation and cultures, and I think Mary mentioned that too, and Laurie has that in her background too. In some ways, this work in creating an event is a little bit of a transformation of a culture of NCS also. And so I think we've got an opportunity there to really get buy-in and put some of the organizational change management techniques that sounds like quite a few of us know into action when doing that at the same time, because it's not just about putting forward an event, it's about really understanding where people want to go on this journey and how to take them there and what might come up as we go along that journey. So anyway, interested in working with you all on this. So nice to meet you all.
As always, awesome. Okay, let's see, Simone.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Simone Simpson from class of 2023. I just came through. I'm so excited. So I am in the process of finishing all of my scripts. I guess everyone remembers that process. So learning all of my scripts and growing as I do, everyone, all the trainers at the training were like, we're so excited to see what you become. And I'm like, what do they mean? I've already become so much with this work. But as I'm learning the scripts and learning these words and understanding me and thinking greater than time, and I never think in dates. And it's so hard when people say, but what date, what year? And I'm like, I don't know, but I can tell you how it felt. So now I'm understanding me more and growing. So I'm different today. I'm not even finished with my scripts and I'm so different. So I can't imagine who all of you are and where you came from and where you're going. And so thank you for what you've done so far that opens the space up for all of us to be here today. And why I volunteered for this group, I already saw this and I still can't believe it, because was there ever a retreat? Because I thought I saw it, that there was one in Turkey or Croatia. And I'm like, did it not already happen? Because I saw that. I was online. It said NCS annual retreat and it was either Turkey or Croatia. And I'm like, but we already do this. So I don't know if I was dreaming, but no one seems to know of that. So, but it's so very clear what I saw, that we're already doing this. So I was already excited about it. When in my work field, what I've done, I actually created and developed annual retreats for orientation at universities. I was at UNLV, and so I would create. There's just so much fun, because along with the growing and where the organization is going, there's the bonding activities as well. So this is something that I've done. I was also in politics, a field director, and worked and created events for candidates. I ended up running for office and winning my seat, so did that as well. But currently, I'm a senior consultant for a technologies firm and love what I do, wanting to bring NCS there to my company. We just went public, so I'm really excited to share with them what I've been doing, what my secrets are to my success, because they have what they say we should be doing, and I don't follow any. I do the opposite, and they finally just let her go because she's so successful. But I don't tell them really what I'm doing, because But I'm excited to be a part of this, to find out, to see what we create together and what we can do and what's been done, and knowing what Dr. Joe does. It's always the cutting edge. We know what's been done, but what more can we add to that? So I'm just excited to see what our energies together will create.
Perfect. Thank you. Oop, I'm still on mute. Nope, not on mute this time. Thank you. A little bit of a housekeeping thing. We just got under tornado watch here in North Carolina mountains. Go figure. So I'm popping a link out for a Google document that Anne Marie is already familiar with. If for any reason I drop off, there is no reason for this thing to finish. Anne Marie, I mean, the Zoom should still work because it's an open forum, but if someone could open that Google Doc just in case, that's just a good place.
I have it open.
Thank you. Just saying, one of these weird things. I don't know if you even can hear the thunder. It's very loud. Okay. So with that, Sharon, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Sharon Wilkes. I'm still studying, trying to get all these scripts together and all the process. It's taking a lot longer than we all expected, but going through the change, we're still, most of us in the river still. Always, I guess. But I joined the group because the collaboration with the other trainees has been just amazing, just people from incredible backgrounds, and that was such a great value of going all the way to Denver. So yeah, having that connection, I think we can all succeed together and support each other. And yeah, I love all that aspect of it. So I've run quite a lot of events. That's marketing and sales was my background before I started my own wellness business about 6.5 years ago. So multi-day events, sales events, customer events, all over the place. And so I know how much detail and work is involved in everything from selecting the venue right through to the actual agenda and what everyone's going to eat and how we're going to funnel from locations and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, excited to be involved and hopefully contribute. I may not make 5 a.m. each time though.
And we don't need to, so it's okay. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
doing it though. Very appreciated.
I happen to
Um,
wake up at 5 to 5, would you believe it?
Of course,
So I
'cause
thought,
we're
oh, well,
here.
I must get on it.
Yeah, I
You
have
can
to.
go and meditate now. This is perfect timing for meditation. There you go.
Yes.
So, couple things that I just want to add in. I have a something queued up. I am merely the nominal admin of this group. Let us just call it that. Everybody here could be like super more qualified than me on any given day. So we are the flock. We are not like, we're just a flock flying, right? So if I'm going in a direction because somebody like the flock just needs to have the document like in the background, like feel free to please like stop and say like, hey, you're like 5 steps past, can we go back 4? Or we're already there, let's go this way. My goal in doing this is I watched a behavior when we were talking about redoing the booth at the events, and a lot of people had a lot of good ideas, and nobody really raised their hand to make anything change. And so this group got started just because I realized that we had a lot of energy around something and a lot of really qualified people. And if I just raised my hand to start the ball rolling, everyone could help it keep rolling. And they needed somebody to say, start. So that's kind of how I view what I'm doing. And so, yeah, enough said on that, really. That's all I'm doing is I was the impetus to make the ball start going. I know that in 2023 at the TTT, they talked about it. So Lindsay, who might be listening to this later, I don't know if that she has time, but she's in the group Slack. So is Trish. And so, I had that call with Lindsay because I was able to get on her calendar before she went to Vienna. And Anne-Marie's schedule and Lindsay's schedule were actually exactly opposite. Anne-Marie was on vacation when Lindsay was available, and Lindsay's now busy in Vienna. So with that being said, if you guys want, I'll start sharing a screen of just a document, right? And it's nothing that's very exciting. It's kind of just maybe a footprint on where we're gonna kind of get our thoughts together in one spot. So can everyone see that? We're good? Thumbs up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So the team, just so I can explain how it got created, is I put a very large emphasis on geographic diversity because I didn't want to do something that people from Australia or Europe or wherever like know something about what we're doing and, like needed to speak up, right? I could have basically housed the entire thing with people from 2023, but because you're not certified yet, I didn't think that would be a good idea either. But to have, I think it was Sharon's point about how many hands it could take to make things happen. I thought it was really important to get some of that energy and people that, are current that might help us get things to happen. Renate, Anne-Marie, and I are from the class that was last year. And then Rosie, Carol, and Mary are from prior year classes. And again, like Mary said, could hopefully leverage some knowledge and some understanding of how this organization has run and does run so that we don't step into anything that we could have avoided knowing that. And not that they wouldn't have backgrounds in this either, but there's definitely wanted some of that vibe and that energy. So if I were to shorthand, and I do want to do the agenda, but if I were to shorthand what I perceive of the conference call with Lindsay, the Zoom I had with Lindsay, here are the highlights of what I think we should use as framework for this discussion moving forward. From a financial perspective, and this is super important, which is why I'm starting there, okay? Where the rubber meets the road, right? And Anne-Marie nailed the questions. Lindsay's perspective was on that video I'm sorry, let me stop. I didn't leave that on the video. Now that I remember it, I did that on purpose too. Let me start out here again. Stop. I asked the finance question because again, I think we all have really valuable time and I think where rubber meets the road, let's start out with the viability. And I want to have a brief discussion with us on just one topic alone. Yes, it's going to be valuable. Yes, Dr. Joe potentially would want to come to a part of it. For Dr. Joe to come to a part of it means that we're hooking it on the beginning or after of an event that already exists on a calendar. That is the most practical way of doing this, at least for the first go round. So yeah, we could think outside the box on, I mean, we have 2 people in class of 2023 that work for a cruise line, but let's just take that off the table right now. It's just not going to be practical. All right. And I think all of us have a desire for Dr. Joe to be there more than maybe what else would weigh out.
Can I just add to that, Lori? Just
yeah.
so I think, you know, I heard the recording, I heard that on the recording, and that makes sense for a lot of other people as well, because especially if you've got an event in the US or in Cancun or wherever, the people that are in a different continent will have a much better chance of coming there if there's an event as well. Like there are some folks from Europe, for instance, that won't come to the Marco Island follow-up because it's only a 3-day as opposed to a 5-day, and it's not worth the price of a flight. So I think if you're trying to make it worthwhile for people's time, then that makes sense. Some people have a struggle taking that much time off, but I think in terms of scoping this, that's probably a fair scope to start with.
Perfect. I'm writing these notes down because what I want to do, I'm very pragmatic, by the way, like that's that project manager background. I don't want us to spend a lot of time on stuff that doesn't make sense, right? So if we're already honing down and we're saying it's going to be before an event, it makes it easier, right? Then we have to, then it's a different discussion. It's like, well, do we want to do Mexico? Like, do we do the US or not the US? Like we have logical questions that kind of come after that. So hook to the event. Lindsay and I, in the financial discussion, this is how it would work. Encephalon has staff that makes contracts for events. The way the TTT currently works is that they tell the event staff which event they're hooking up to. And then the event staff actually turns Lindsay over to the management of the hotel to work with the hotel management to scope out the event. But Kelly and the event management stay in touch when it comes time for contracts and discounts and things like that. So we get deeper discounts because they're already holding an event there. But the underlying point of that would be, we would, as NCS people, not NCS management, be paying in Lindsay's, again, we could propose something different, but Lindsay was pretty much on the page of, you guys need to put that in the budget of how much you're charging people, right? So people would be paying prorated or something, some fee that would allow us to pay for the conference space for the duration of the workshop. Obviously, we would be in charge of airfare and lodging. We certainly could pivot as part of our discussion, but I'm just kind of catching you up on something that didn't make the recording as part of the team. And so that is just a financial thing we should be paying attention to. All right. None of their staff time, none of their travel time or hotel time. So Trish, Andre, and Lindsay, we wouldn't be paying for them. They would be paying for themselves, or corporate would pay for them, and NCS corporate would pay for them. But we would be responsible for any food and room rental that happens for the consultants. Now, again, we could create, we're amazing creators, that Dr. Joe looks at that and goes, no. But I'm just kind of letting everybody get up to speed on that. And then to Anne-Marie, to your point, I don't know if I asked Lindsay, but we were talking like 2 to 3 days, like that. At some point in my conversation with her, I don't remember if it was on or off tape, we were thinking this is like a 2 to 3 day thing. And that, again, it has to provide tremendous value for the people that want to come. It's not a party. It's an opportunity for all of us to come together in a way that we learn, we grow, both in our businesses as well as in the delivery of this product. So does anyone have any questions about any of that before I kind of dive into
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Gina.
I just from what Anne-Marie was sharing and what you're talking about in terms of people's time and it being attached to an event, or is it already being suggested that the annual meeting be on the before or after an advanced follow-up versus a week long, in the interest of both time and also we're advanced and
Right.
yeah. Has
It
that
would be
been
open for
decided yet?
ours. That's us to discuss. Like, not that all of it's not us to discuss. That is in our category to discuss. So when we talk about having a survey that has come up a couple times on this call, I think that I'm just going to note that that's probably a really great question for the survey of our own participant, like our own people. Like, I know I have feelings about that. I clearly have feelings about that. And so let's just ask in the survey, AFU versus week long and what people like. And again, we can even survey, like, for sure that I know coming out of this call, I guess I have a goal of somebody or two people working on a survey. Like that, I know that needs to be one of our tasks. So we'll look for some volunteers on that. But there's a lot of things that would be there. Like, do we want a 2 or a 3 day conference? Like, there's some of the questions are kind of obvious. The other one is US versus non-US. When for a while, the vaccine requirements would have almost required us to do this like before a Mexico event, and they don't do AFUs in Mexico. So this is an interesting question because a lot of folks, again, we have just opened up so that everyone can get to the US. And it could be a question that we ask event staff if there are any AFUs being planned. So we'll have some things coming out of that, Gina.
Thank you. I just have one follow-up. Just when we did our TTT in Denver, it was right before the Denver AFU. I had never done an AFU. I'd done 4 week-longs till that point. And there was a good deal of our class that ended up going to the AFU after our 5-day training. And it was pretty amazing to enter the AFU work. Not that maybe it would be after, but just to say, like, I like the week-longs because I like the opportunity to just keep layering in the work. And I was just blown away by the way those 2 events, landed in me as an experience. So I'll just say that.
Gotcha.
And
I'm closing down some things, by the way. I don't know why my computer just keeps wanting to bring up all my rosters for my classes. So go figure. So they're all coming down. I just taught a class this weekend and I have 2 more this month. It's a weird month. Okay. So I hear you. And again, I think that's something we can leave up to the bigger group. I just, if we decide to, like what I just jotted notes down, and if everyone wants to start like throwing some notes at me also, like in the chat or
I've been
whatever
putting
way
it
you
in the
want.
document, Lori.
Perfect. That's even better. All of you can get into the document. It's a shared document. One of the things is like, I know that I'd love to your point, can we get a little discount for all of us to come? And then we all get to go to an event together, which probably has never happened, Mary, right? Like, how cool would it be if we had like 30 or 40 of us, 50 of us going to an event together? That'd be, 60, 70, 80, who knows?
Can I
So-
say something about that? I mean, I think, so I look at this like, if a client was hiring me to do this, how would I go about it? And, I think part of this is, how are we going to approach this? What is our plan? And what does our deliverable look like for Dr. Joe? Because he's going to be saying yay or nay on it. But creating ROI around, can we put as part of this effort in the deliverable, the report or the recommendation or whatever it is we pull together, can we make some projections around what it's going to do for NCS? Can we show ROI metrics around how we're going to increase our impact on the world, how we're going to increase the value that we're offering his clients, and really tap into what drives Dr. Joe? And then I think you can show value there, and you can and you can show the ROI for then subsequently tightening the group's community by attending an event together, then I think that will make sense. But it's like any client spending money, you've got to be able to put the case together for it.
And this is what you do so well. So if everyone can see over here on the document that I'm now sharing the right screen, Anne-Marie, let's talk about tangible outcomes. So there's the document that I shared with everybody, just taking 3 steps back before I still get to the agenda, which I will get to. So here's our team. And this was just my first pass, literally into sections of what maybe should be in this proposal. What I would like to have as an objective is us to kind of agree to the sections, because then we have tasks that people can do offline. Does that everyone get why? Yeah, right. So just like Anne-Marie was coming in here and she's put in some comments. I don't know, Anne-Marie, did you just go on the bottom or were you up? There we go. So
I put some
she's popping
bullets
some stuff.
under some of the
Yeah.
stuff that you were just talking about from your conversation
Right.
with Lindsay. And then I just started some brainstorming around the survey questions.
Perfect. So this is just our document. It's our team's document, right? Everyone adds in, takes changes, does what they do. I'll pop that out in the Slack group for everybody when we come off this call. So if you're listening to this, you'll see that on the Slack. And I'm just going to kind of go back up. All right, you ready all for your laugh? Where did I get the subject headers from? ChatGPT. Anyway.
I could tell.
If you were going to do a proposal for an annual conference for a group of trainers who have not had an annual conference yet, what sections might you put in the, anyway, that was me. So, so basically, let me just move this out of the way. So what I would like to do is, I just want to kind of run through the sections we have. I'd like us to kind of agree or disagree or add to, or just kind of frame what we'd like in the sections, maybe prioritize them and move them around a little bit. And then again, to honor everyone's time, we're done in 20 minutes. So I'd like to just see if people can just kind of go off and start looking into some stuff, right? We're just in data gathering mode right now, and let's just gather the data in the directions that we want, not go kind of willy-nilly. We don't need to do every section right now. But, how do we create a proposal that has a chance of success with the people that we know that are going to approve it? All right, everyone good on that? All right, so give me just a minute to come back to my screen share to my chat over here. And I'm coming back over here.
Quickly, Laurie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very surprised to hear you say it's not a party.
I
actually,
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I was
was-
actually thinking like 50% maybe business, 50% social, sightseeing, networking, connection, fun stuff. Yeah, retreating,
Yeah. So
meditating.
all I can share, because I interviewed Lindsay and I also was the one that raised my hand to start the ball rolling. And both times she was pretty darn clear that for this to work for them, this needs, and for her to imagine that people will come to it because there's some significant cost to come, like to fly wherever and put up in a hotel, that there needs to be some real value proposition on what we learn while we're there and what we do while we're there. I'm passing that along as objectively as I can without adding anything to it. I was doing my hardest to just hold space for the message to come through me. At one point, I am very much like wanting to play too. And I think there's nothing that stops us from, doing what we always do. I'm the person that before all and after all the events, I'm like, if anyone wants to come a day or two early, there's a cenote across the street from the Cancun property, and I'm happy to bring everyone over there. And I love going there. And, so I think we can still have that be an aspect. And of course, we're going to socialize at night and network and do that. But I really got a very strong sense that the daytimes were going to really be about content. Mary, you're nodding your head. I'd love to hear your voice.
I was just saying, it just seems to me that from being around the group, like I said, I've gotten much more involved since 2020, whenever I retired, and there wasn't a lot going on in some of the prior years, like before Lindsay took over. But yes, I think that in order for this to work, it's definitely going to need to be something that's going to help to move the team forward, that has some value in it for people to attend. And then also, I know, from Dr. Joe and Lindsay that I mean, I don't know. I guess I think of it as a given, and maybe it is because I've been more involved over the last few years, but it doesn't mean that there can't be some fun stuff, or even that we might even plan something. When we did our training thing, it was training during the day, but they did have some stuff in the evening that was planned, like that was close to the event that we were able to do together as a group. Like we even all went to dinner someplace, or they had an IMAX theater and we all went to watch something. I mean, so there's some things that we could do in the evening that could even be planned as a group, or people can go do their own stuff. I think we can put some of that in there. And maybe have some little fun things, a little bit like getting to know each other, just listening to everybody's story.
Mhm.
I've been listening to the 2023 group because watching the videos and just hearing
Mhm.
everybody, and where they were from. So that's nice to do a little bit of that. And then get to know each other. That was a big deal when I did my training, was bonding with people all over the world and just connecting with them. And everybody's so into the work. And I just was blown away by just being in that population of people. So different from the hospital where I was working. And so every time I do anything with NCS, that's why I love doing this collaboration, and anywhere, it's just the people are just awesome, anytime we get together and have a discussion or do anything. So
What came to me listening to both of you, and let me repeat this back and see how it plays out, and Anne Marie's actually. When we operate like a coherent team, we do better, like teams do better. There's research, right? We do this. So some aspect of this retreat, this annual gathering, should absolutely have titled sections where we're bringing people together so we're stronger as an entity, a bigger entity. It might not be going on a tour, but I would imagine we'd want to do our own teamwork activities where we're bringing, people together, crossing over classes, giving people an opportunity to, do the 3-minute speed dating kind of things. Like, we want to bring people together so we can recognize our faces, so we know more about each other. So when we're at an event and someone says, I only speak French, do we have French people? You've met Antoine or Agnes, we will be better as a collective. It would be an awesome, and I'm writing it down, like there's almost a task in there for when people feel like a part of something bigger, they operate at a higher level and they're more productive. They're, like, to Anne Marie's point, now I'm bringing it in. I think we bring that together in the proposal as part of the reason why we want to have those activities. That I think that's like, that was Sharon, Mary, and Anne Marie, like all together as an item. That makes sense?
So I see Simone's hand raised. I do want to
Good.
comment on what you're
Yeah,
pointing to,
yeah.
Lori, but Simone, go
Mhm.
ahead. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm writing down, but go ahead. I'm going to do two. Go ahead.
Thank
Mhm.
you. Yes, I was like, oh, I guess I should not raise my hand, but I
Just
just wanted to add, I really like that idea. And because we're hooking onto an event, we could even do surveys or have something planned before and after and certain evenings of, so that
Mhm.
getting in the party aspect of it and the team building, and that's something that's important. So we're just finding a way where we can do it where it's not a part of that structured day, but after or before or after the event, and then it fits well, and then everyone's happy.
And we are a global international team. I literally just wrote down, I'd love somebody, I kind of created a task here, but I'd love someone to go do some research on like how you bring international global teams together, and the benefits the companies have experienced when that happens.
Cool.
I
So,
volunteer.
okay, well, good. Because I really do believe, obviously, we are a research-based organization. If we can put research behind these things, probably be a good place to start. Gina, you had your hand up. Sir?
Yeah. So two wonderful things, just to all the points. Anne Marie, what you were saying about how to show why this would be really good for NCS, that we
Mhm.
be at an event together. When we had, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 of us that left TT training and went to the AFU. And I know that I enrolled at least 10 people in the next NCS class because we were such a field of, I mean, we popped into that AFU just completely lit up as one flock. And we
Mhm.
were the talk of the retreat, not the personal us in that,
Mhm.
but the vibe of us, and people were so inspired, and there was just so many conversations that I had there based on that incredible NCS experience. And then also on one of the nights there, those of us who are donators to Inner Science, Dr. Hillary had a game night, and there was were you in that, Simone? Were you there?
Yes,
There's
so
probably 100 of us. It was so fun. Andrew was the DJ, and it was all
Mhm.
Dr. Joe work. We were in teams
Mhm.
of the colors,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
it was so fun, and it was so team building and so collaborative. But we were having to do this game like password of what is coherency, and then and then on the other side of or like charades. It was kind of like charades.
Mhm.
yeah.
So
Very cool.
anyway, and yeah, they added so much value. So I wanted to say it really worked. And
Mhm.
we did really add value to that retreat in terms of new people
Mhm.
wanting to be part of this. So just
All
wanted
right.
to add that. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to keep going because we have 12 minutes. All right. And it's all good. It's, I just love seeing everybody. I can't make it not good because I'm so enjoying all
So
of you.
Laurie, can
Yeah.
so just, I've been just working on the background because I have to drop for a client call at 4
Yeah.
o'clock.
Mhm.
So I did what I normally do. I just created an outline project plan as you guys were all
Mhm.
talking. And I agree with
Mhm.
everything that everybody says, but
Mhm.
a really big part of what I do is really working with clients to define what is the problem, what is it that we're trying to solve for, and what is it that we're
Mhm.
doing, and why are we doing it, and using that as a
Mhm.
baseline for everything that we go forward with.
Mhm.
So I started with the survey, and then I just added in the stakeholders just so that we're not
Mhm.
losing sight of some as you guys were talking.
Mhm.
I feel like for us to really define what we're doing here, the survey needs to be our number one. We need to hear from other people, and we need to craft that survey and get it out, get feedback in on it, and then use that feedback as a way to develop an outline for what would a 3-day workshop or a 2-day workshop or whatever, what
Mhm.
would it look like? And then, so that's why I put that in as the baseline. I then put the stakeholder analysis ahead of it because I think that's something we could do really quickly. A stakeholder is someone who's impacted by the project or by the outcomes of the project. Really, it's us, it's Lindsay, it's Dr. Joe, but it's also more people than you might think, right? So there
Mhm.
are other people that have a vested interest in the success of NCS, right? Dr. Hamill, the Inner Science Group, you guys were talking through that, just some of them, Kelly and the Encephalon team, it's corporate clients. There are corporate
Mhm.
clients that are sort of our stakeholders too. They all have a vested interest. And so we might not target all of them and get feedback directly from all of them, but there's opinions there that we should solicit and incorporate in as we're thinking about developing this and formulating it.
Mhm.
And maybe Lindsay or Trish is the face to Encephalon. Maybe not. Maybe we talk to Kelly directly and get her feedback. Where possible, I propose talking to people directly so that you can hear things that are not filtered. So I think there's some work there to do there, but the survey for me, like, in really hearing from people, and I want to hear what could this be, what, door wide open, what could it look like, but also what's really holding them back right now, right? What are the problems that are really facing people right now? What, what would they need to get out of a 3-day workshop to actually come and attend? So I just sort of pulled all this out as you guys were all talking, as thinking about, well, how do we move forward? And just
Super
And-
awesome.
start doing.
Totally super awesome. Like I said, I told everybody before you got on here. Anne-Marie, let me just take a deep breath. Everyone can see the screen of what you did, right? Just want to make sure everyone's looking at it. Okay. So the only thing I added in, and from talking to people, I think this is important, is just for the surveys, we do need to frame what we already know. I have had already, when people were feeding, knowing I was doing this, like I had all sorts of ideas that might be great at some point in the future. And it's not that we don't want to create them, but I think our goal really wants to be that if this is something we all believe in, we want it to get approved. And so like we want to reach for the stars in a way that it'll still make sense for the first time out of the gate. So because there's 12 of us on this team, and like we have some people on this call, is there anybody that wants to? I'm happy to work on the stakeholder analysis. I'd like to do it maybe with 1 or 2 people so that I'm not just like sitting there with my room with my eyes closed. Do I have any hands raised that like 1 or 2 people want to just, we'll bang through that? Okay, Gina.
I can do that too with you. I mean, that's
Okay,
pretty straightforward, I think.
All right, so this, we're going to just leave Gina, Lori, because I'm the admin, and Anne Marie. All right. And then what we're promising the rest of this group is as soon as we come up with the stakeholders, that analysis, all right, then we're going to flip down. And now I'm going to ask a different group of people if they could raise their hand to kind of do the first pass of the survey that they could bring to our group, right? We'll be the first people that review it. Does that make sense to everyone? And you can solicit feedback, Sharon, thank you. And anybody else? Okay, Sharon and Simone. All right. And that doesn't mean that you don't use our group fully, this little project team group, right? You can ping us, you can ask questions in the group, you can bounce things all in our Slack channel. That's a working group, right? But we'll get you the stakeholders. You guys start working on a survey. And then we'll just kind of do that.
Suggest, yeah. So on the survey, I mean, I think what's important, and it might, I think it's hard to do this like 1 or 2 people. So maybe maybe we need to create like a recurring sort of, this is a recurring working group, and the folks who show up actually work on these items and move it forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because it plays into each other, right? Like this, because there's a number of different stakeholders, some of which maybe we send the survey to, right? But there might be some other stakeholders that we need to canvass some other ways. And the survey, I think, just really thinking about what are those questions that we want to ask people? What do we really want to know from people? What's the purpose of the survey?
I think they
can all
still
collaborate in the
though.
Google Docs there. It's all, it's open. I love the way you've created that. And I've just added a question in there. It's, we can all add to that and collaborate in that way.
Let me look down. Perfect. So I have a couple things. Let me keep framing. Anne Marie, I hear you. I would like us to keep moving forward because the one survey we know we're going to do is us. Yes. So I don't really feel like the survey team has to wait for all the stakeholders. It's more of a nuanced clarification survey team, Simone and Sharon. Whatever you're creating, create a Google Doc. We'll invite, or I'll create the Google Doc so they're all in the same place. All right. And then we'll have a link to the survey. Oh, perfect. That's even better. So you guys will start. We know we're surveying us. So let's just go ahead and get that one started. That's the most critical one, honestly, because that's where a lot of stuff's going to come up. So just limit it to that stakeholder group until we come up with other stakeholder groups. Maybe other people will be responsible for, one of the other stakeholder groups. We'll start with the one survey though. Let's get one nailed. And then I'm just going to scroll through. So everyone, you might be looking on your screen, but here we go. Again, Anne Marie was great. We'll have the review with us, the committee. We'll review with Lindsay, actually Gina and not Gina, Sharon and Simone will review with Lindsay. That's how this is going to work, not me. And then we're going to get it out there. We'll get the results. Then I think, Anne Marie, you're talking sequentially now, like we wouldn't do the meeting purpose and agenda until we're done. So,
right, because I think that you definitely would want to, I mean, you can do some generic stuff on that, but it's going to be much more valuable when it's targeted. And honestly, so part of me wonders, and I just want to park this out there, when I saw Lindsay's comment about 2025, so we're planning for something in 2025, I'm like, that's an awful long way away, right? So if we hear back from people, I feel like there's probably going to be things we hear back from people in the survey that we could create a virtual meeting around in the shorter term, and that might be a way to help sort of dial in some of the value but do it in a way that's very low cost, because I also hear the cost and the logistics of scheduling it is a challenge, right? So I know everybody's really rooting for this to be in person, that there's a great energy in person, but I don't know if there might be an opportunity to do something in 2024 that's virtual.
I would like to put that as a question in the survey, Sharon and Simone, that you're doing. Can you nail that one down as a question? Because I know my answer was I actually don't have any interest. And I'm the one that decided to have an interest. So I am so zoomed out on those types of things. I feel like our
Yep.
global calls are that. But again, it's a perfect question to ask the whole collective. And it has to be framed. That's why I said the survey that we have to frame. Sharon and Simone, when you're looking at it, go back to the interview with Lindsay. There's a lot of framework in there. And then we can also do this, do we start taking maybe some of the global call, like, again, it's the global call versus meeting in person.
Right.
So, all right. So Gina, myself, and by the way, if you haven't raised your hand, it's actually great. We have plenty of things. We're just going to get started with the stakeholders. You guys get started with the first survey. The only two things I really want to bring out right now is Dr. Joe's event menu, Sharon. What I would like you to do, because you're doing the survey, is in the announcement channel, if anyone has a question like this, so Sharon has a great question. Do we know Dr. Joe's event schedule? Sharon, I'm now going to answer by, I would like you to go out into our annual proposal group, and I want you to tag Lindsay in the question of, as we sit here and unfold into thinking about when in 2024 or 5 that we would be able to, tag to an event. Can you get us a list of that for this task force? Or is there some other way we can do that? Because of course they know. They do contracts months in
Yeah,
advance.
they may not want to share it.
Yes.
So. And I mean,
Agreed,
I don't know.
but we have to ask. Just
I
you're gonna
think we
ask,
can
that's
ask,
all.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
ask, but there's a good chance that they're not going to tell us that, right? And I don't know if we need to know it right now either. People will need to know that
Yeah.
at some point to make a decision on whether to go or not. But the logistics.
I think we should ask, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, Anne Marie, because
No, I think
Dr.
it's fine
Joe
to
some
ask.
years does. Yeah, we haven't had an AFU in Europe in forever. What if there was an AFU in
Yeah.
Europe in 2024? And that might be something that
It's a bigger
everyone
draw
considers
card.
kind of a
Absolutely.
sweet spot,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
So let's just see if that gives us some information. That's all. We're just
We
gathering
can certainly
information.
ask. I'm just saying we don't, if we don't get that, then we're not
Mhm.
blocked by it, I don't think.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. But that's a good answer. And so just more generically for the people listening, as you guys take on tasks, if we wanted to, again, some of this stuff can get bounced, but Lindsay, Trish, and Andrea are in our Slack channel. They will probably not monitor all the questions all the time. So just flag them with the @ and then put their name. Now it's going to show up in their direct message queue as a thread they need to answer. And that's the kind of thing. We don't want to bug them a ton, but for you to formulate what you're doing, that is not a bad question. And it's coming officially out of a meeting. So we're good. Okay. Okay. Anne Marie, I know you need to get off. I will do a separate thing. The last thing I really need to cover right now is how do we all want to communicate? Because that Slack channel is going to get busy, right? And I know Rosie is not like used to being in it. I've had some people say that they didn't even know that this was happening because they're not, like it's just all over. There is a directive right now to move us to Slack, but at the same time, I want to be honoring this. Is Slack working for everyone that's on this call right now? And
Yes.
the Google Doc that we're using is our means of communication, right?
Yeah.
We'll keep it all in one spot. We're not changing the world and solving world hunger. We should be able to do everything in one document, right? Okay. If you
Yeah.
need a page that's your section, create a page out there that says this is my work in progress, my little play box. Ignore me. Okay. So it's all good. We can have
Yeah.
pages for everybody. Okay.
Okay, I
Right,
got it. Lovely to meet you
go
all.
ahead.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye, Emily.
So Simone and Sharon, how long do you, I'm now going to talk through this really quick, but do we want to meet again in 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Oh, I thought you were going to say 2 or 1.
No, 2 or 3.
2 then. 2.
2. We'll do it in 2 weeks and then we'll just have some more tasks and we'll let some more people go through some things. The only other, I'm just willing to leave it with that. Is everyone okay with that? We'll work on the 2 things. We're going to work on the stakeholder analysis and the first survey that we know we're going to execute.
The meeting purpose, I think we should enunciate. We should be very clear on that. So everything's
Mhm.
towards that goal.
I would ask everybody on
As
this, I'm
a
gonna
as a
make-
one-liner, like
Yes, no,
or-
no, no. I'm
yeah.
gonna ask for there to be one more thing, which is, and I don't disagree whatsoever. And again, this was just me like getting out there and playing around. But this mission statement, which is I think what you're talking about, needs to be solidified. Does that make sense? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna own that task. I'm gonna put the mission statement out in the Slack channel. And I'm going to ask, do we want to ask for feedback or should we have a meeting about the mission statement? What do you guys think?
I think ask for feedback and this document, it's a great way to
Mhm.
share and maybe make comments. Do you
Mhm.
think we could invite people to make comments, but then someone's got to incorporate that or yeah.
I know I can be the admin right now. Like I am okay. I'd rather put this out on Slack into our big group and just ask for feedback to tighten this up because I agree with you that this is a critical thing. This is why we're meeting. And again, I'm a little all over, but I'm so glad you're all or
So
not.
this
at the
mission
moment.
statement is about our group is creating the event, I think, rather than the event itself.
Gotcha,
Why
gotcha.
would we have a global event? Yeah. So that purpose, so that
Okay.
everything is
Okay, so let us all agree to the executive summary. I will put it into our little group first, okay? And then what we will do, so this is our group right here, right? I will make a comment right here with that, Sharon, and I will ask us to group feedback that one statement so we can continue to tighten it up so that it could go on the top of the survey that you and Simone are working on. Is that what you're asking? Did I repeat that properly? Because I want to make sure I got it right.
yeah, sorry, I haven't read
Oh, okay. You're doing two things. I got it. So let me do this. Let me stop. If I have two options here, because I do want to honor people's times. I do agree that this is critical. Do you want to work on it with Simone as part of the getting the survey ready? Or would you like me to take it and bring it to the 12 people on the annual proposal committee and ask all 12 of them for their feedback?
I'm happy for you to decide.
I'm gonna,
also
I want
happy
to
do that as part of
I would
the-
like to bring everybody on board and kind of get the juices flowing. So I'm
Yeah.
going to ask, I'm going to say, when I report the notes, I'm going to say, we are we are single little mini committee for two things. And then the third thing, we are crowdsourcing all of you. I either want you to give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or whatever you think you need to change, edit, or comment. And I'm looking for 12 answers here. And that's how I'm going to put it.
Awesome. That's
Okay.
wonderful. I
yeah,
love it.
great.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anything else for us to just be whole? It's all good.
Thank
for
you
me.
for everything you're doing. This is amazing what you're spearheading.
Lori,
So
you
good.
put a lot
Thank
of
you, Lori.
work into it. Thank you.
I'm just wanting it to happen, but Anne Marie's not on the call, even though I'm recording. So Anne Marie's probably not going to listen, but here we go. I really personally think an annual meeting needs to be in person. If we're going to do it and we're going to all put the effort and the time into it, I'd like us to all get together because I want to hug each and every one of you.
And it's nice because we're going to attach it to an event. It's going to make, it's like the Marco event in September. I'm doing the
Mhm.
week and then the AFU, they're just hooked together. So it's really
Yeah.
to both. So it'll be nice.
Makes it easy. All right, everybody. Thank you for your time. 2 weeks out, I'll do
you.
some Zoom calls. The other thing is I'm going to schedule like 2 or 3 meetings now. So it's going to be like, we're going to get a couple out there, not just the first one.
Smart. Love it.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. Bye, everyone.